What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our week two bowl game predictions. As always, Ty joining me here to break down this week's bowl games. But before we talk about this week, we got to talk about what happened last week to kick off bowl season. Obviously the big talk is the playoff, the first round, and great games. The first two were, and then after that, it was just blowouts. But what stood out to me the most is Alabama's offense showing up like you predicted. It's going to be completely different this time around, and all the breaks went Alabama's way this time. In their previous meeting, obviously it went all Oklahoma's way. So give them credit there. And then obviously both of us taking A&M to win at home, where it was a stinker until the last 5 minutes of the game, when that's when it got interesting and got fun to watch. So give Miami credit there as well, going into College Station and getting that huge win. But how about our Broncos, huh?
Yeah, I got to touch on them, but first of all, how bad is Conference USA? If Kennesaw State coming in as a Conference USA champion, and that game was over 5 minutes into it, I think it was 21 nothing, halfway through the first quarter, just absolute domination. Western, like I said, I was hoping they could just run the ball and control the game. They did exactly that, breaking off 70-yard runs at will. So big win for them. In the Texas A&M Miami game, it was almost so bad that it was good, if that makes sense. Like sometimes a game gets just so incompetent that it becomes fun to watch in the end. So that's kind of how that game turned out. But, maybe if Miami can muck it up with Ohio State, it could go similar to the Big Ten championship. So you got to think they at least have a shot.
Yeah, and obviously you had some success last week in those games, going 5-1, where myself, none of these were close until my last one. They the Oregon. They had that one in the bag until they decided to bench everybody in the fourth quarter because it was such a big blowout. If you're just a box score warrior, you're thinking, oh, JMU covered and only lost by 17. That's pretty respectable. I mean, this game was over at halftime. I think it was what, 34-6 at half.
Yep.
So bad beat there, but I mean, JMU, I guess giving them credit for still putting up 34 on Oregon's defense.
Yeah, terrible beat in that game for a lot of people. Great beat for me. The Western and Kennesaw State under. This game, I think, was 28 to nothing before the first quarter was over. Somehow, just smooth sailing from there, and the under hits. And Alabama, Oklahoma, that one could have went either way. Alabama ends up running away with it late. The over smashed in that game, so a good bounce back week for me after I believe 0-6 last week.
Yeah, and we're gonna kick it off here for week two. Louisville -8.5 versus Toledo. They're up 18 right now in the third quarter. So hopefully they can hold on to that one. UNLV Ohio over. I just think UNLV has played in countless 30 to 31 games, 45, 42 games this year. And I think that's going to be the same because Ohio 10, normally their tendency is doing well in bowl games here in recent history. I'm with you here on the Northwestern. I think they blow out Central Michigan. Northwestern was surprisingly a good team this year. The record wise didn't show, but I think they can just blow out Central Michigan. Penn State, Clemson, I'm going the under. I know you're going with the over in this one. Um, I haven't seen it all this year, so I'm not gonna change my ways here. I know like you like to get a little crazy here in the Bulls because they just throw everything out the window there.
Yep.
Army -8.5 versus UConn. This originally, I think it was 10.5 is what high as I saw it. So now it's bumped down 2 points, and I do like Army here. Play some hard-nosed football against a pretty much depleted UConn team. Their coach is gone, obviously. So I think a lot of these players are kind of just out and not really in it anymore. Then LSU Houston, I'm going the under in this one. Houston can barely score as is. Now you go against this defense with whatever's left. It's still very good talent on this team. And I'm going the under there for that reason.
I'm starting out with two close spreads here. I'm going Western Kentucky, a team that has performed similar to Ohio. They've performed really well in bowl games in recent memory. Got to go with Hawaii. It's a home game in the bowl for them. California having to go out to the island. Another team without a head coach. They fired Justin Wilcox, so I think Hawaii has a lot more to play for there. I'm going with Northwestern as well. David Braun has done a great job coaching that team this year. It basically impossible era right now to be successful at Northwestern, but he's done it. So I think they have their way with Central Michigan. I'm going with New Mexico. Jason Eck, another coach who's done a great job. He's who I want for the Michigan job, even though, uh, as I said off the camera, I don't even think they know who he is. But he's done an amazing job, and I think that continues here with a New Mexico outright win. I'm going with the over in Clemson, Penn State. Two talented teams that have underperformed. I think they lay it all out there in their final game. Uh, and I think there's a lot of points. And I'm going San Diego State to cover against another team who lost their head coach in North Texas.
And we'll jump into the first game. It's currently now in the fourth quarter. Louisville's up 18, like I mentioned earlier. Playing this one in Boca. That is in South Florida, if you didn't know where that is at. And Louisville's dominating. I expected you to expect that to happen. Toledo, they've been a good team in the MAC these last few years, but this year they just didn't have that extra push that they normally have. Obviously, didn't get to the MAC championship this year. Still a solid team, but if we looked at it, Louisville lost 2 games in overtime by 3. They lost a game to Clemson by 1, and then obviously got blown out to SMU. So this team could possibly be a 10-2 team facing a middle of the pack MAC school. That was our reason and why we're going with Louisville here.
Yeah, and got to throw in also Toledo losing their coach, so that kind of plays into it as well. They are just scored 21 to 10, but it's a game that Louisville has dominated. The score is a lot closer than the game has been. There's been a lot of big mistakes from Louisville. And yeah, just a lot more talent on the Louisville side. Feels like a lateral move for Jason Candle going from Toledo to UConn, but it might just be a guy that's, looking for a change of scenery. Feels like he was maybe at a dead end, so maybe grass will be greener for him.
In a game that hasn't started yet, it's going to be the New Orleans Bowl, obviously played in the Caesars Dome there down in Louisiana. It's going to be Western Kentucky and Southern Miss. Southern Miss kind of a home game if you want to put it that way, because it is pretty close to their campus, but I'm going with the Hilltoppers. Western Kentucky has been a solid team in Conference USA. Obviously didn't go to the conference championship this game. Um, but previous years, I mean, the Bailey Zappi year, they were phenomenal. They responded the year after that with, I think, another 10-win season. And then this was kind of a step back here, going 8-4, but it's still very respectable. And I think they top it off with a win in this bowl game to get to 9 wins. And, obviously when you win a bowl game for these group of 5 schools, it is still a very big deal.
Yeah, and a recurring theme here, Southern Miss also losing their coach, Charles Huff, I believe is his name, going over to Tulane. And that's a big factor, even more so for these G5 teams. I feel like they're a little more coach dependent, head coach dependent than the Power Four teams. So I think that's a big loss for Southern Miss, and the line has flipped to reflect that. So I think Western Kentucky is going to put up a lot of points here. Southern Miss won't be able to keep up, and the Hilltoppers continue their success that they've had over the last decade.
Yeah, then after that one at 9, UNLV and Ohio in the Frisco Bowl. That is obviously played in Texas, and it's going to be UNLV coming out on top. A great 10-win season under Dan Mullen. Obviously, they went to the Mountain West championship game, but lost to Boise State in Boise. And I think they get to 11 wins. I think too many people didn't think they'd even get to 10 wins. So if they can get to 11 wins here, a great first season here. As they will probably be one of the favorites to get to the playoff next year. Dan Mullen can recruit how we know he can and elevate this UNLV program.
Yeah, I think they're just going to be moving the ball up and down the field at will in this game. There's going to be a lot of points scored from both teams, but I don't see Ohio getting the stops that they're going to need to win this game. Dan Mullen's done a great job, like you said. I think he's going to be getting a power forward job next season when those start to open up. I think he's going to be a hot candidate because he's shown it now. After a couple years off, he's hasn't missed a beat. So I think UNLV gets win number 11, and it should be more of the same next year.
And then moving to Christmas Eve, 8 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, Hawaii, I think it's 6 hours difference there. So it's a 2 o'clock kickoff for Hawaii. I'm going with California in this one. And I say that because, yeah, they lost their coach because of a firing, but I'm going because of their quarterback. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I know it's Jaron Kiawe Sagapotelli.
Close.
I think that's pretty good for the first time ever trying to pronounce it. but he is from Hawaii. He's returning home here in this game. So obviously he's going to have tons of family in this one at this game. But obviously Hawaii as well has great talent out west. But this one, I'm, going with the quarterback play. He's a potential Heisman Trophy candidate next year, with the way he played late in the season. So give me the Golden Bears here to take the win, I guess, technically on the road.
Yeah, I think this will be a fun game, actually. Hawaii always seems to play exciting games when they get to host the Hawaii Bowl. And JKS, that's all I'm going to call him. He's, had a lot of exciting games for Cal. I wouldn't say, he's been exactly a top 5, 10 quarterback this year, but he's been exciting. Makes some mistakes every now and then, but the talent is definitely there. So I think it's going to be an exciting game, but you can't pick against Hawaii hosting the bowl game on the island. This is always a really big deal for them. So I think they get the win on Christmas Eve, and 9-4 for them. This is a program that's been down the last few years, so it'd be a really big deal for them to win a bowl game.
And then the day after Christmas at 1, it's the Game Above Sports Bowl played at Ford Field in Detroit. And kind of a home game here for Central Michigan, even though it's not a far travel for Northwestern. Um, Northwestern should blow them out of the water here. Like I said, Central Michigan went 7-5, but it really wasn't that much of a 7-5, like a good 7-5 record. Where Northwestern, they're 6-6. I mean, they had some really close losses to Nebraska by 7. Obviously, Michigan lost at the end by 2. Illinois at the end of the year lost by 7. So, the losses are there, but I think the record doesn't show how good this team actually is. More like an 8-4 team. So give me Northwestern here to blow them out.
Yeah, really impressive. I know 6-6 isn't anything to write home about for a lot of teams, but for a team that lacks so much like Northwestern does, I think it's been a really impressive season for them, and I think they're just going to dominate in the trenches here, run the ball at will, and I think they're just going to, kind of control the game in the second half. It'll be about a 14-point win for them. Central Michigan, always good to go to a bowl game when you're in the MAC, but I think they're just overmatched here, and I think Northwestern, the players are bought in, and that's a big deal for these bowl games, and I think that'll show.
Then after that one in the Rate Bowl, played in Chase Field, which is the Diamondbacks' home in Phoenix, Arizona. It's going to be New Mexico and Minnesota. And you can see why I'm taking Minnesota here because PJ Fleck is the perfect coach for the early 2010s if you're a Big Ten school. You get to 7-5, 8-4 almost every single year. You're not going to win a championship with the roster you build, but it's a very respectable roster. You can play hard, and you go to your bowl game and you win your bowl game almost every year. Well, it's 2025, and I don't think Minnesota really has that sense of urgency to possibly get to the top of the Big Ten and compete for it. So this is kind of Minnesota Super Bowl, and with that, that's why I'm taking them.
Well, I'm going with the upset-minded New Mexico Lobos here. I think they have the most underrated coach in college football, and Jason Eck. A lot of people, point to Bob Chesney of James Madison or Pat Summerall of Tulane as doing the best coaching job at the Group of Five level. I think it's by far this one right here because New Mexico is a program that's been absolutely going nowhere over the last several decades. They are never anywhere near the top of the Mountain West. And this year, they unfortunately lost out on kind of random tiebreaker that they had. But 9-3 at New Mexico, basically impossible. And he's done it in year one here. So a lot of respect for Jason Eck. And because of that, I'm picking them to get win number 10. And this is a guy who should be getting a look at the Michigan job. But if not, he's going to be getting a Power Four job next year for sure.
And then at 8 o'clock, it's the First Responders Bowl, and this one's getting played in Dallas, Texas. And I'm going with UTSA here. They got the better quarterback in this one. It's going to be Owen McCown. I don't know if he's actually playing or not, because who knows with this transfer portal nowadays, if these kids are actually playing at these low-end schools. But he's a junior. I mean, he almost threw for 3,000 yards this year, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, where FIU kind of had a quarterback problem all year. I mean, they didn't really figure it out. So give me UTSA here at home. I like the stability, and I just think they have more big play capability.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's as simple as the fact that I just watched the Conference USA champion go out and get absolutely dominated by Western Michigan. So it's hard for me to pull the trigger on a lot of these Conference USA teams. So I'm going with UTSA. Much tougher conference this year for them in the American. They actually have a win over Tulane. So that's a very impressive win. And I think they imposed their will here on FIU, another game where I think a high flying offense, puts things away early, and FIU won't be able to keep up.
Then moving to Saturday at 11 a.m. It's the Go Bowling Military Bowl. This one's played actually at the Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, Maryland. And I think this is a great matchup for it. Unfortunately, I think it's just going to be Pitt all day from the jump. Obviously, since they put in Mason Heinschel, this team took off and played some really good football down the stretch until obviously collapsing those last few weeks of the season, losing to Notre Dame. But like I said, in the middle, though, they go to Georgia Tech and win that game and then get blown out by Miami. So big learning curve there. I think he's going to take that tape, put it into this game, and just dominate this weak East Carolina defense. With that reason, I'm going with Panthers.
Yeah, I agree. I think the talent gap is very large in this game. So whether the buy-in is a little bit higher for East Carolina, I don't think it's going to matter. We've seen uh, some blips for Pitt where they've looked like a really good team, and I think you'll see a little bit more of that here. And I think Pitt ends their season with 9 wins.
And the national championship game, or sorry, preseason national championship game that a lot of people had here, they're actually playing each other in the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium. I'm sure everybody thought that would be the case this year. 6-6, 7-5, two huge disappointments of teams, and I'm going with Clemson in this one. I know it's kind of a home game for Penn State, but they're just a dumpster fire right now. Still talking about the 2025 team. And I don't really know what to expect in this game. This could be a 35-34, or it could be a 13-10 kind of game. And I think Clemson is more equipped for either situation in this game with the better coach right now in Dabo. And obviously, Cade Klubnik is still playing in this game because he's a senior, looking to improve his draft stock against a decent Penn State defense. So give me Clemson here with one last gasp and I guess a minor victory on the season.
Yeah, I think this is almost a coin flip game. I mean, both of these teams defensive minded. Like you said, both high expectations entering the year, immense disappointments, but I think it just comes down to Dabo versus an interim coach, and that gives Clemson the slight edge that they need to win this game. But it's going to be very close. I'm actually excited to watch this game because the blue chip ratio is still very high on both of these teams. So lots of NFL prospects across the board, which is surprising with how poor their seasons went. But I think it's a empty the clip type of game, and Clemson actually wins a surprisingly high scoring affair.
Then at 2:15, it's UConn versus Army in the Fenway Bowl, obviously playing at Fenway Park in Boston. And I'm going with Army, and I don't know how many passing yards they're going to get. I'm going to set my personal over-under of 60. If they throw more than 60, I think they win this game. If they don't, I think they're still going to win this game because they're just going to dominate on the ground game. And obviously, losing Jim Mora, he's off to bigger and better things. He was kind of the sole reason why this team got to 9-3 against the schedule they played. Now, Army, obviously, they're built for these kind of games where these guys don't transfer and they want their money. They're obviously committed for something bigger than just football. And with that being said, this actually is a brotherhood where UConn's kind of looking like, where am I going to get my next check from? So give me Army here in this game, as I think they run away with it, literally.
Yeah, I respect the troops. I'll always pick the troops in the bowl games, but especially in the NIL era, there is complete buy-in for the service academies in these games. These guys aren't playing for NIL purposes. There's no opt-outs. There's no guys in the transfer portal looking for their next destination. So that means a lot now in today's college football. So I think Army gets it done here. I mean, you have all that going for Army, and then, as you said, on the UConn side, they've lost their head coach, and that hurts a lot going into a bowl game. So I think Army controls the game in the running game. They might not they might not complete a pass, but it won't matter. They're just going to run the ball at will, and I think they have their way with UConn.
Then at 3:30, you get Georgia Tech, BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, obviously one of the most iconic bowls we've seen here in recent history. I'm going with the Cougars, kind of got gypped out of a playoff spot this year. Only two losses were to the number 4 seed Texas Tech and Georgia Tech. I think going into November was, yeah, they're going to win the ACC and get a playoff spot, and obviously collapsed like they have done for the second year in a row. And unfortunately, find themselves in this bowl game. But what BYU has built these last few years, I just love them getting to 12 wins and another successful year for BYU.
Yeah, I think this will be a really exciting game as well. Two quarterbacks that kind of mirror each other. Maybe don't have the natural talent that some of the top quarterbacks in college football have, but these are both gamers. Bear Bachmeier and Haynes King, two guys that have just put everything on the line for their teams this year. It'll be really cool to see them go up against each other. That being said, I think the BYU defense is going to have a lot of answers for Georgia Tech in this game. Surprised the over-under is so high. I think these teams will be kind of feeling each other out for a while in this game. Might be kind of lower scoring, but in the end, I think BYU grinds out a win.
Keep going because it
All right,
definitely has been more than a minute when it said less than a minute. So I guess we have probably like 8 minutes, 7 minutes to be careful. So try to end this around 4:10. So let's say we got 6 minutes.
we got it.
All right. All right. And with our next game on Saturday, it's going to be Miami of Ohio versus Fresno State here on the CW channel. And if I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know too much about these teams, at least this year. Miami of Ohio, of course, did make the MAC championship and lost to Western. But coming into this game, Fresno's favored by 5.5. I just think Fresno has really been more of the success story these last few years, playing good football, getting to these decent bowl games, 8-4, 9-3 seasons. And I expect another good season for them, winning their bowl game in the Arizona Bowl, Snoop Dogg Gin and Juice inspired bowl. I don't know where they get these sponsors and everything, played in Tucson. Give me Fresno State here. They're kind of at home already, where Miami of Ohio has to travel all the way across the country.
Yeah, Miami, Ohio, yes, made the MAC championship, but they kind of got dominated in that game by Western, although it seems like everyone's getting dominated by us lately. But that being said, I think the offense hasn't really been there for the Red Hawks at towards the end of the season, and I think that's going to be an issue. I think Fresno State shuts them down in this game, and the Bulldogs get to 9-4, another solid season for them.
And also, while that game's probably at halftime, you can turn this one. It's 25 North Texas going against San Diego State in the New Mexico Bowl. And I'm going with Texas here. I say that because I know Drew Mestamaker is probably not going to be playing in this one because he's hit the portal already. But they got a senior quarterback in Reese Poffenbarger who could be playing in his last career game, or they could go with another freshman in Chris Jimenez Jr., I think, maybe. No, sorry. I think he's a running back. I could be wrong, or a receiver. I don't know. But those two guys have thrown passes this year. So I really have no clue who's going to go out there for North Texas. Or San Diego State, I think it's kind of a disappointing season, even going 9-3. I thought they could go 10-2, win their conference, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case in the Mountain West. Lost on some tiebreakers, or sorry, yeah, lost on some tiebreakers, so they didn't even get into the Mountain West championship. And I think, unfortunately, they fall short of getting to 10 wins on the season, where North Texas still has a chip on their shoulder where, that loss that they had to Tulane knocked them out of the college football playoff. So I think they're going to win this one and really show that, yeah, you can knock us down, but I don't think it's the end of the season for them.
Yeah, I think it's tough to move past losing the coach here for North Texas. I think that's going to be a big factor in this game, and also Drew Mestamaker in the transfer portal. So you're going to have an inexperienced quarterback. I know they probably have some talent behind him, but I'm going with San Diego State. They've been a really solid team this year. Their only real hiccup was a really bad loss they took to Hawaii, which ended up eliminating them from Mountain West contention. But I think they still find a way to get to 10 wins. They've been really steady throughout the season, and North Texas. Eric Morris was a great coach, so I think not having him on the sidelines is going to be a really big loss for them, and I think it'll show. I think San Diego State gets the win.
And then at 7:30 on ABC, surprisingly good matchup that two teams exceeded, excuse me, expectations this year. Obviously, Virginia going 10-3, losing in the ACC championship, which obviously meant they didn't go to the college football playoff. And Missouri looked like one of the hottest teams going into the month of November, end of October, and then it all just kind of fell apart for him there. Bo Pribula's not playing in this game. Future Indiana quarterback Bo Pribula, that is. That's my prediction there for the
Yeah.
transfer portal. And I don't know, something about Missouri, just hard-nosed football. They find ways to keep every game close and either win it or lose it at the last second. Where Virginia has probably been the most fraudulent 10-2 team I've ever seen this year. I'm SEC versus ACC this year speaks for itself. So give me Missouri here.
Yeah, Virginia was playing with fire the whole season to get to 10-2, and that showed in the ACC championship when it finally caught up to them. And a lot of people are mad at Tulane and James Madison. Maybe be mad at Virginia because if Virginia wins that game, you only get one Group of Five team. So they really screwed a lot of things up as well. And I think they're going to get a steady diet here of Ahmad Hardy. He's been the sole offense really for Missouri this year with all their quarterback injuries, and I think they're just going to run the ball at will on Virginia. They have not seen a running back of his caliber this season in the ACC. So I think Missouri. I think 4.5 is pretty light for this one. I think Missouri wins this one by double digits and gets to 9-4. And if they get Ahmad Hardy back next season, they could be a team to watch out for in the SEC.
And then at 9:15, you get LSU, Houston. An interesting matchup to say the least. Houston with Willie Fritz in his first year, blowing expectations out of the water, going 9-3. At some point this year, we were talking about maybe Houston can win the Big 12 and sneak into the playoff, but unfortunately, ugly loss to West Virginia and a disappointing loss to TCU late in the year really derailed that chance. But this is a chance for them to really establish themselves as an up and coming Big 12 team against a knockdown LSU team. Give me Houston here. I think this could be I don't want to say program altering win, but definitely a huge boost heading into next year. Winning 10 games in your first season and capping it off with beating a well-known SEC team.